Power 98.7 Podcasts. Be part of the conversation. Call Power Up on 0861 987 000.
So yesterday morning, as I was just minding my own business, doing some work, and not falling asleep, so I figured let's also just have a look at what is happening news-wise. Maybe there'll be a constitutional court judgment. Let's see what happens. I mean, after all, it's just before 9 o'clock, and then guess what one encounters? Helen Zille probably didn't have enough coffee in the morning and decided to tweet. And decided to be, of course, consistent with who she is, consistent with her bigotry. And yesterday, really, everybody went after her after she was tweeting that not all aspects of colonialism were bad. Now, I wonder why. What makes you think about that? Just randomly, usukele nje, and decide to tweet that nonsense. But also, it also shows a lack of reading the political climate, or an inability to read what is happening politically. The last couple of weeks, this SASA matter has been great for opposition insofar as ensuring that they don't have to do much insofar as going after the ANC. They're doing that all on their own. All the papers have been leading with Batabile for a solid 2 weeks. She's been on our minds. We've been talking about her. We've been having debates about what is actually going on here. We've been talking about this very extensively without a need for opposition parties to do much work. And maybe that was the problem. Maybe Helen Zille thought, no, too much attention is going to Batabile Dlamini. I also want the attention back on myself. And just like that, in a couple of tweets, all the negative attention back onto the DA, back onto talking about racism within the DA. And there were those that said, no, let's just not make it seem like it's the DA. It's just Helen Zille. She's a whole premier of the Western Cape. She represents the DA in provincial government in the Western Cape. So there's no I'm talking in my own capacity. And the worst thing is that she then gives a non-apology after all of the rubbish and when everybody else went after her. And if you've ever said anything negative about the DA, if you've ever questioned anything that the DA has done, you'll know that there's always somebody or 10 ready to correct you, ready to set you straight, ready to respond to a question that you're asking. All DA members, all DA supporters. But yesterday, it was crickets. It was crickets for the longest time when we kept posting that why is it that Helen continues to get away with this? It's not the first time that she posts such nonsense. There have been other awkward tours as well. But she keeps getting away with it because of who she is within the party. For how much longer will this continue? Because she is bad for the party. They may take 2 steps forward. Trust. Because of who she is in the party, when she does things like this, it takes them 5 steps back. Just like that. Maybe she has no desire for Mosimaimane to succeed, and that's why she always brings him back in such an awkward place. And you had a few people tweeting yesterday. Phumzile van Dama tweeted. That was one of the person who tweeted. Well, I suppose Musi also tweeted. But nobody tagged her. They just said, look, there's nothing positive about colonialism. And we all said, tag her. Nimsabani. Why can't you address her directly so that she knows what she has done is wrong? And how dare I forget the only person in the DA who was gutsy enough to address her and be unafraid of addressing her, and that was Mbali Ntuli. Literally addressed her directly, right? Tweeting her directly to say that what you're saying is nonsense. Not in those words. I'll actually read verbatim in just a moment what she tweeted. And look, this is not the first time Mbali speaks out about this. And that's what's made her unpopular in the party. but surely that's what you want. Then people who are prepared to say, no, this is what we stand for. But when Helen Zille represents something else and says other things, we can't call her out because of who she is. So what is it about that party? But also, what is it about our country where a whole Helen Zille, a very highly accomplished woman, an astute and sharp politician, just does not get it? What is it about our country that even somebody like that, who you expect to perhaps be more conscious, right? Be more aware, be more socially aware, be more mature and sensitive, where you expect her to not make these blunders, but she does it. So you can only imagine what an ordinary Gwebus, what an ordinary John on the street who hasn't a fraction of Helen Zille's accomplishments, what they think and what they think is okay. Political sociologist Pedro Mzileni joins me on the line from a PE. Pedro, it's good to speak to you. Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning to you and your viewers.
How did you receive the tweets from Helen Zille yesterday, and of course the subsequent debates and the conversations? She trended for a very long time yesterday. How did you engage what was happening around that?
Well, you would remember that for the past 4 years, there has been a constant pattern of racist comments being made by white people towards black people. You remember the situation of Penny Sparrow. We had after that the situation of farm workers being put in a coffin. There are many instances of this case. So, from a sociological point of view, what then we observe is a pattern of injustice. And when a pattern of injustice keeps on happening and being done by the same group towards another group, then we end up saying it is now no longer a case of individual cases of condemning Zille, condemning Penny Sparrow, condemning so and so. It is now actually a pattern of a social structure that is visible in society, a social structure of white supremacy, white liberalism, white arrogance, and all those things being purported by a group of white people as a race towards the subjugation of black people. And the reason for that draws way back into our history, whereby the body of a black person has long been devalued by white people through apartheid colonialism, oppressing them as a race, oppressing them as a gender, and oppressing them into poverty. So those comments are just a continuity of that pattern of violence towards black people. So we shouldn't be surprised when people like Helen Zille have the confidence to make such comments, because to them, black people are invincible. They do not exist in society. They are not. Black people are not people who really matter. It's people who are not in the room, according to them. Hence, they have the confidence to write in public on Twitter, degrading and mediocre comments about black people. And they know that nothing is going to happen to them because they are cushioned and privileged by that social structure of white supremacy that I'm talking about.
Has there perhaps been enough done, whether it's the types of conversations that we have about white supremacy, whether it's the kinds of workshops, sessions that we have about how as a collective, right, we actually try and work against this idea, with very material implications, not just in this country or on the continent, but the world over, right? The black experience is very similar in many ways. Has there been enough done in that regard? I mean, we have the language, we get it, we understand it, we've understood it for many years, for centuries, in fact. What will it take for there to be that kind of shift? Because clearly it isn't just a numbers game. You have white people who are in the minority in this country, but that doesn't mean anything in terms of demanding for there to be for there to be consequences when you hold such hateful and silly views?
Well, conversations are there every day, to be quite honest with you, seminars, conferences, I can name them. They do sit to discuss this problem. But the problem doesn't go away for two reasons. One is that white supremacy is deeply entrenched all over the world. All over the world, when I mean all over the world, I mean in all 7 of these continents that we have. A white skin is a very important skin in the world, and a black skin is a very cheap skin, you understand. Hence, a rich black woman in the name of Oprah can be racially abused in Switzerland for trying to buy a handbag from a mere white receptionist, you get. No matter how powerful you are as a black person, but the mere fact that you possess that skin color, you remain a cheap body in the entire world. And a white person remains a very important skin color in the world. And the problem now, when we discuss these problems, is that we still use, the thinking lens of white liberalism when it comes to finding solutions to these problems. You find us discussing how do we become a rainbow nation? How do we become a diverse nation? How do we become integrated? How do we become united? And if you listen to these words, integration, diversity, non-racialism, rainbow nation, it's words that are associated with European white liberal fundamentalism. They have nothing to do with actually uprooting and renewing the dignity of a black person as a human being. They are just words to, sweetheart us as black people, brush us to keep quiet. They are just there as an anger management of our frustration.
Yeah.
They speak nothing at all in dismantling the problem of white power as it is. And they even force us, these words, to discuss our problems as black people using the thinking of white people. So we will never get to a solution until we, as ourselves, as the oppressed group, discuss our issues in our own language and in a way that we know them ourselves without the presence of them, and chart the way forward. It's the same thing with gender violence. With gender violence, the experience of women, only them can they explain it the way it is and define the way they want to, succeed in their liberation as a group from the oppression of male bodies. So that worldwide oppression of white people, it is there, it is sitting there. So the comments by Helen Zille as an individual is just uttering an opinion from the sociological group she comes from. That group she grew up in and was socialized into has produced the individuals like Helen Zille and Penny Sparrow who utter these comments without any doubt because they've been raised in a white community where they've been taught carefully how important they are as a white skin and how less important a person with a black skin is. I mean, the first time, for an example, a white child comes across a black person, it's when they're a domestic worker. It's when they're a gardener, they walk them around the community, they clean their clothes. So in their head, they see that a black person is not someone who understands sophisticated things like my father who works in a bank. These people are domestic workers, they clean the floor. So there isn't any value about these people. And then you expect that person when they're 26 years old to suddenly change and value you as a person. It cannot be.
I'd love your thoughts on 0861987000. I'm having a conversation with Pedro Mzileni, who's a political sociologist, and we are talking about Helen Zille's rant yesterday. When I saw that, my day just soured, hey? And as you know, we've been warned. We all know the quote by Toni Morrison about the core function of racism, which is to distract. It really is to distract. How many of us found ourselves yesterday? Maybe you're doing some important work, whether you're building your business or doing something else, and suddenly you spend the entire day explaining to people who were hell bent on defending Helen on why her comment was wrong, on why her comment was inappropriate, or on going after Musi to act, or on going after whoever to say something solid. Suddenly your day's gone. Umungu manje because of Helen Zille, right? And her tweets. And this happens all the time. It's her Izolo, it's her many other times. It'll be the next person today. It'll be somebody else, Ksasa. It'll be Gareth Clifford any other day. And they will give reasons and apologies, and we'll talk about that and we'll move on, but nothing will fundamentally shift. Tweet me as well at 7 Gambola and at PowerFM 987. Some calls here. Sivu's in Pretoria. Sivu, good morning to you.
Hi, Sobe, how are you?
Great, man.
Sure. I don't know. So, for instance, see this thing, it just reminded me. The last time I called into your show, I don't know if you remember, I told you of a story where I had gone to a school concert and my daughter was basically made to perform in a concert celebrating African nationalism, and they were singing about Jan van Riebeeck and everything. So, like that day, you asked me what I was going to do about it, and really, we were just flabbergasted. We didn't know what to do with my wife. But basically, what we ended up doing, we basically took our kids out of the school system. Like we're homeschooling them now because, like, our government doesn't necessarily show a commitment to create like an environment in which African children, because whether it's black teachers or white teachers, our education system is like so Eurocentric still. But the reason I'm bringing it up in this context now, I just want to concur with your speaker basically, where he's talking about we really need to take responsibility now as black people. Because I'm just thinking back, if you even read guys like Robert Sobukwe, even Steve Biko, people who are often portrayed by some amongst us as if they were different and they rejected non-racialism. But when you actually read these guys, these people actually believed in a non-racial future for this country. But the white establishment, the descendants of the white colonialists in South Africa, keep on rejecting these overtures basically from us black people, saying that, look, we do not believe, because if you think about it, even the concept of race, it is something that is not scientific. It was created by these white people to justify their feelings of superiority to everyone else. And now, what Helen Zille has said this time, it's partly not surprising, but it still had so much. It's like, wow, it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to say that, I agree actually with the guy. And I would actually like to urge, we need to sort of organize as black people, as black parents, regardless of where we are, just find ways of taking care, of ourselves, taking care, like creating the kind of country that we want. If we want to create a non-racial country, non-racial world, it's clear that if you look at what's happening in America and Europe, it's clear that white people are not interested in that kind of world. So it's okay.
Sure.
But because we believe that there's only one race, the human race, it's okay. If people believe that they are superior, fine, they can be superior wherever they want. But I think we just need our own movement now, and we really just stop dealing with these people.
Sivu in Pretoria, thank you very much for your call there. Tobani in Pretoria West, hi. Solid, man.
I'm good. I'm sure that I don't know if you remember, but I was very clear about me, what I think about the DA and all the stuff about how I would never vote for the DA and stuff like that. I don't know if you still remember, but in this issue, I'd like to agree with Helen, and I think that we've blinded ourselves by racializing this and politicizing this. And I think Helen was the wrong person to say it. But there is truth to what she's saying. There are some positives. Maybe not for us as black people. Maybe we didn't even ask for these positives. But there are still positives to what happened. And I'm one who believes that there's nothing that is ever purely evil and purely good. So this is why I think I might be more partial to agree with what she's saying. But if we take the opportunity to leave out our oppression and all the negatives that we all know about, and I can go pound for pound with anyone about the negatives of colonization, but I just want us to consider and do some self-introspection and look at ourselves and say, we really, all these things that are around us, we had no part in. Just maybe we might have been cheap labor or slave labor in developing all these other things. And look at ourselves and say, we need to start moving. We need to look beyond all the other little things that we constantly argue over, and realize that maybe besides English, there are other things that we've benefited from the Western world. And the Western world was the same one that colonized us, but we still benefit from a lot of what they've created, and we haven't really...
Tobani, I hate to interrupt you, but this is painful to listen to.
I know.
Come on, dude.
Okay.
No. And I'm gonna let Pedro come in just a moment. But I was biting my tongue because we're having a conversation. We must let people hold different views, and that's why I let you speak. But Tobani. So essentially, let me use a crude example. I saw this and made me uncomfortable. I never like using rape analogies, but if you say to somebody, look, yeah, you were raped, but you got a beautiful child out of it, so celebrate the beautiful child. You were still violated here. So the fact that you're prepared to underplay and in fact downplay the pillaging, the killings, the violations, the destruction of culture, the continuing pillaging of this continent. You prepared to overlook all of that just because you and I can speak nice English? Tobani? Really?
Let me not confuse you. Maybe you misunderstand me. I'm not downplaying this. I'm saying let us take a pause and look at this thing. Let me use the same analogy you just used. If someone comes to you and says, maybe there was a positive to what has happened, and that person points out to the child, the statement that they've made is not wrong. That child is a positive. You've decided to keep it, and you've viewed it as a positive. But by them saying that, they're not undermining your rape. They're not trying to downplay your rape. It's just the statement itself. That's what I'm trying to get to. There is a positive, and you must not say there isn't, because we've been raped, we've been oppressed, we've lost our identity. We cannot point to who we were and define all these things. But let's just say what it is. There were some positives, not just English. There were systems that were built, and we've adopted these systems. We might have invented them ourselves, but they would have taken longer and slowed.
You don't know that. You don't know that, Tobani. This is the thing. We weren't given an opportunity to progress and develop ourselves, right? We don't know that. So who knows where the continent would have been if we had just been given the space to do our own thing? Why would the boat of progress and modernization miss us, but would have happened everywhere else on the continent? I mean on the globe rather.
Now let's think about this in this view. Look at how white people had progressed up beyond us. It was so easy for them to oppress us. It was because we were comfortable with what we had, and we didn't realize what was going on in the world. Now we've seen what is going on in the world. Now we can go pound for pound with all these people and make sure that the same wrongs that were done to us before cannot happen, because we are using the innovations that already exist to progress ourselves. If you deny the facts and say, we would have become maybe greater, who knows? Look at where we were when our people had no answer to the innovations that were there, because our people were comfortable with what they had.
Yeah, so it's all right. Tobani, let me bring Pedro in on this one. Maybe you want to engage Tobani, Pedro?
Yeah, no, I think they must pay Tobani a good amount of money, because they don't even need to speak for themselves. He's speaking for them. And it's very sad to have an African brother doing that, It's very disappointing. But to engage him, this concept that they brought development, they brought innovation, is actually not true, because if you're going to call prisons, courts, robots, and roads development, what exactly are you talking about? Because we didn't need those things when we were living our own way of life. And it is also false that we didn't have systems that worked for us before they came. You get what I'm saying? So our families were in peace. We were living our own life, just like how the Japanese, the Chinese, and all these people have self-determined the direction of their countries. You get what I'm saying? The arrival of Europeans here, because the mistake that people make is to think that white Europeans came here to build those roads for us, to build those robots for us. No, they came here to build those things for themselves. And in the process of building those things for themselves, they had to rape our women, they had to kill our men, and they had to subjugate us to a permanent life of poverty and unemployment. So there's nothing, absolutely nothing positive about that. The life that he's talking about that we are living is just a reflection of Europe. There's nothing developmental about it. It's a mirror of Europe that we are living. So they didn't bring anything positive to the black life. Instead, they oppressed us to the life that we are living today. You understand? When you talk of a country with poverty, unemployment, and inequality, those things are associated with the black skin. Who brought those things to a black skin? It is a white person. So there's no way you can say colonialism was in any way of benefit to our people. You get, there's no way to justify that. So the idea of development that he's talking about, maybe he's not aware that it's an ideological discussion that he's raising. From an ideological of white people, that is how them and Tobani define their development. We are coming from our own ideological position of how we define our own development. And I think had we been given the opportunity to raise ourselves in our communities the way we wanted to, we wouldn't be in this mess that we are under today. And my friend, you can't at all say there's something positive from rape. You know, when someone is raped, you are not going to go to that person and say, appreciate the child, appreciate the orgasm you received, appreciate all of that. No. Bottom line is rape took place, and rape is violence to another person.
Yeah,
no question.
Full stop. So, Bana, I hear you want to interject. Let me give you 30 seconds because I want to bring other callers in. Go for it.
So I think you are all misunderstanding me. I'm not saying that we weren't going to have all these things and the life we were living wasn't working for us. I'm saying even the act of our enslavement was because we weren't aware of the progress that was around us. We were comfortable with our life. But to get back to Helen Zille's statement, what she's saying has some truth, but we don't want to recognize it because we want to racialize it, and we're still feeling the pain of our enslavement and our lost identity.
All right, Tobane in Pretoria West. Let's leave it there. Thanks for your call. Edward, thanks for hanging on. Morning to you.
Hi, morning. How are you?
Well, thank you.
I totally disagree with the previous caller, number one. Number two, I'm not surprised at all. This is the beginning. This is the beginning of black people to see when they will never, ever being important or being recognized as a very important people in our own land by white people. It is not only Helen Zille. With Helen Zille, it is because of she is a politician that is trying to gain more black people to come and vote for our DN in 2003. But my point exactly is, white people still see black people as slaves in their own country. That's number one. I was called 3 days ago. I was called with a K word on the street that saying that what do I do in here because I'm not welcome. It is only for a certain racial people that must be there. So hence what I'm saying, that I'm not surprised at all. Things like this will still continue, and it is time for black people to rise up and see these things and start acting and be responsible for themselves on these matters.
Edward, thank you very much for your call. Owen, you're in Brit. Hi to you.
Good morning. If there's anything that poses a very serious danger to South Africa, it's black people voting for DA. No amount of punishment by our system will rectify this. If we are thinking that Helen Zille, by imposing a harsh punishment to her, is going to make her change his views, we are as good as delusional or hallucinating as black people. It is also said that white exceptionalism and white superiority is something that we harbor and condone as black people. I think black people should stop voting for DA. That's the only punishment. If the black people in the DA would walk away from the DA, that's the kind of punishment that Helen Zille deserves. That's my take on the matter.
All right, Owen and Britt, thanks for that. Jacob and Garankoa, let's hear from you.
Good morning, sir.
Yes,
it's been a while. Yes. I like to disagree with your guest over there. You know what? This thing of it is unfortunate. I like to agree with Towan. It is unfortunate it was said by Helen Zille. Let's be honest. Have you seen the untouched tribes of the world? People who have never have any encounters with the outside world, they are still living, or what I can call right now primitive lives. And then this thing of saying science was began in Africa by who? By who? The Arabs. Let's be clear. The very original slave drivers. The very original slave drivers, which we call African today. Those people who displaced Africans from North of Africa. North of Africa is not black. It is not black. And if you call those people black, I don't know what you're smoking or anything like that. This thing of trying to say, I'm a victim always. Come on, let's acknowledge. Let's be honest. This thing of trying to say everything white people must not speak right now. Is that what we're saying? They must just keep quiet and only the black person must speak. No.
Who said that, Jacob? Nobody said white people mustn't speak. They must just not say dumb things.
No. This is what I'm hearing. Okay. There's nothing 100% inherently good or bad about anything. There's nothing 100% evil or bad about anything. Okay, let's take for instance, we have right now we can record our history. Yeah? We record our history, we write it, we do it. This system was introduced to us. But why did we lose our pre-recorded history? Because it was all right. Anyone could take it there, do it there. Is there a bad thing that now we can record it by writing? And we did not develop that system. Let's be honest. Let's be honest about this. It's, try taking out your emotions and don't be excitable. Don't be an excitable person. Just calm down. Think about this. Sharp. And your guest there, please, my brother.
All right. Pedro, jump in there.
Yeah, this is another second person that they must pay. Because he failed to be a global thinker even himself, Because if you're a global thinker, you would quickly think of what is happening in China, In China, China is owned by the Chinese. They develop their own systems. They don't speak English there. They speak their own language. They eat their own food. Everything that they've developed ethnically for themselves, it's what they are using in China. And that system, China has more than 1 billion citizens. And there is no poverty in that country. You get. Because there was no white colonial system of apartheid in China implemented by white people. China self-developed itself. The only disadvantage it had was the war with the Japanese in the 1940s. Since then, it has been developing by itself as a country using its own systems, and it is where it is today because it has self-developed and identified a direction from its own people. He also talks about, my second point now, he also talks about the oral exchange of information. He says the oral exchange of information is backward and writing is a modern thing that they came with, which is not true. You go to any court today, both written and oral evidence is used to charge somebody. You get my point. So there's nothing backward or forward about oral and writing. Both these things were used historically, and they are still being used today. And it's also not true that black people were not writing. We wrote our languages. We wrote in our own way. So people must not replace education with storytelling, because it's telling stories. You get my point. Telling stories is not educating the public. People must go back to read carefully about their history from an educated point of view. And also the Arab people from the Middle East, people from Jamaica, South America, those people have dark skins. Those people, I said in the beginning that a white skin is superior worldwide. You understand? When white leaders in America embark on a war on terror, they target countries with brown skins, being the Arabs themselves in the Middle East, the African continent, even the Chinese. Anyone with a brown skin is undervalued globally by a white skin. That is why we are all bombed and attacked and colonized by these people, because that skin, that brown skin color, is a problem to these white people. Coming back to our country.
Pedro, I'll tell you what, if you can just hang on for a moment for me. I need to take the news. We just need a few more minutes from you after the news as we wrap up this conversation and take one or two more calls. 0961-987-000. Mpositole is standing by with your latest Power News. It's 5 o'clock.
Power Up with Zille and Kambule. Weekdays 3 to 6 a.m. on Power 98.7. Now we're talking.
All right, 7 after 5 o'clock here on Power Up. Trust you're having a great start to the morning. If you didn't know, it's a Friday, baby. It's a Friday. Even though we're having conversation, Jay, that is upsetting, eh? But it is what it is. This is the country that we live in. Still taking your calls on 0861-987-000. I just want to wrap it up with my guest Pedro Mzileni, who's a political sociologist, and I'll take some of your calls in just a bit. Still, of course, reflecting on what happened on Twitter. Pedro, thanks for giving us a few more minutes of your time. Let's perhaps talk about briefly just the political implications of a rant like that, of not taking the right type of action against Helen Zille within the political climate of this country. What does it actually do for a party like the DA, if we talk about solid opposition, and by solid I mean many, many years of experience? You've actually seen the growth in numbers as well, particularly during Helen Zille's time. Right? She managed to grow the party, and in many respects, perhaps the most trusted opposition. If the I suppose the spirit out of power is anything to go by, they lead a big province, which is the Western Cape. What does this actually do? Because I don't think people engage this, and then when we go to elections, engage tweets like this, and then when we go to elections, you forget that this is a view that is held by very senior people within the Democratic Alliance.
Well, politically, which is a subject I didn't want to touch to on my article, but let's get down to it. Politically, I would say, firstly, when it comes to elections, many people in this country would ordinarily overwhelmingly support the African National Congress. When it comes to elections, they are sort of very disappointed in the actions of the ANC. and also its subjective witnesses. So you find that the ANC, most of the time, it experiences a protest vote when we go to elections. And that protest vote is split all around the opposition parties, the EFF, the DA, and all of that. But what sets the DA apart is that although it is an opposition party, it has an identified and a settled constituency where it builds its base from, and that being the white communities. You look at where it has won. Take Western Cape for an example. In Western Cape, in case listeners didn't know, Western Cape in 1994 was not won by the ANC. Western Cape was won by the National Party. The same party that implemented apartheid won democratic elections in Western Cape in 1994. You see. And where did the DA govern first? The province they won first. They won the Western Cape, the very same province where the National Party was. So the people who were existing and voting during apartheid, there were elections of white people during apartheid. The people who were voting and existing during apartheid, they didn't die in 1994. They are still living, they are still within us, and they are participating in democratic elections. And the election outcomes and patterns of the DA are still reflecting the strength of the National Party, because the National Party used to be dominant in Gauteng and Western Cape, and the same pattern is reproducing itself again. But now the question that you ask yourself is, with white people being such a tiny minority, who is assisting them now to win elections overwhelmingly with their political party? Then it is these colored and black and other races of people whom I believe, I still want people to challenge me on this one, whom I believe that they are disappointed in the work that the ANC is doing. Hence, they find faith in voting for the DA. And they are protected by the Constitution to do that. It's their right to do so. Yeah. But deep down, what pushes that election is the subjective witnesses of the ANC. So as a solution, which is my last point, the solution that I would suggest is what the very first caller said, that, we've got to reflect as black people to the fact that, look, on the basis of our skin color, only, we were seriously dealt with during apartheid by this group of white people. And we're in a democracy now trying to rescue ourselves, and the agenda that we identified was to build a society that is non-racial. Now, there's a difference between non-racialism and multi-racialism. We're not trying to build a multi-racial society here. We're trying to build a society that will not identify me and subjugate me on the basis of my skin color, because I'm a human being. I must be valued like a human being like everybody else. Sure. So to be humans again as black people, we've got to come up with our own program as a race to say how best then in our own land do we take ourselves out of this poverty as a race, because we operate as a race. Sure. So once we find a common solution, a common identification of our problems, using our own languages and our own spaces as black people, without white people coming in to identify those things for us. If we can identify our own path, then we will find a solution.
Absolutely. Pedro, that's where we're going to leave it, mate. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Pedro Mzileni is a political sociologist on the line there from PE. Let me take some of your calls on 861-987-000. Tato Dumela.
I think, the one thing that disturbed me the most, with Helen Zille, I suppose it's to be expected with all her other tweets. I don't think the DA has found a way to actually debate and discuss race in a way that there can be a free flow of information, that her and Balintuli were having, I suppose, different type of conversations, and yet they belong to the same organization. But more importantly, I think what's particularly scary, and that's what maybe we should push the need for a more decolonized education, is the lack of knowledge of our people, of their history. Thinking that white people brought all these things and they're benevolent to us, they civilized the natives. They really need to look at pre-colonial history. And there needs to be an understanding. They need to look at figures like Mensa Musa and systems that were there. Things were running. The continent was functioning before the colonists arrived. And you look at how the continent is, all of these wars and whatever. a direct influence of their systems and the prison system that is, I suppose, eating up black people. So I don't understand how they can see that as progress. These things were going to be, personally, I think we probably would have advanced even beyond that. The continent was functioning before colonialism.
Yeah. No, absolutely, Tato. Great call. Thank you very much for that, Tato. In Protea North. Godfrey in Kempton Park. Hi.
Good morning, Zille. How are you?
Ngiyaphila njani, Godfrey?
Hi, fine, thanks. Yeah, colonialism, it was very evil, for sure. And I want to believe everybody agrees on that. But if we are to agree that, as we speak, everything is about world development, in South Africa, we are striving to be. We are actually a developing country, and in terms of that, that is a Western culture, of which I want to believe that we were influenced by the Western people in the country. Hence, when we compare South Africa to other African countries, we are far much better than them. So in that context, I can say we have benefited, if that's how Helen Zille was trying to say. She's right in that context, but not to justify that colonialism, it has actually done justice, because it has actually put a black person behind in terms of development. So from that context, I think she has a point. So, but also, as black people, we need to get rid of this thing of playing victim, because as much as we want to act as if we are all equal, but it seems we are sitting a bar high on the white people, but on the black people, we are setting the bar very low. We are expecting these white people to be perfect, and we are expecting black people not to be perfect. And that is also part of the status quo. We also need to change that.
Godfrey, we must stop playing victim. What is this playing victim? If you come into my house, Godfrey, and you come in, you break in, you beat me up, you take my stuff, and then I state that facts, that you came in, you broke into my house, you took my stuff, you beat me up. I'm stating facts, not playing victim. I'm stating facts. So how are black people playing a victim when stating facts?
I can give you an example. For instance, there are many incidences that have happened in which, if let's say a white person can make a mistake, there's this pressure of saying, no, this person must resign, this person must resign. But when our fellow black person can do something wrong, it's like it's everything normal. And then to me, like where I'm seated, I feel like, okay, it seems as we are actually promoting this status quo of saying those ones must be perfect and these ones must not be perfect.
Give me an example. Give me an example. Who are you talking about here where they've done something wrong and we were like, no, it's fine. They must just stay.
No, we are talking here of people who have actually been caught to be violated the constitution, and we are worshipping them now as our leaders in the movement. Of which
we've all been calling for people who are found wanting, right? Who have not done what they said they would do, what they're required to do by the law of this country. We call for them to go every day. What are you on about?
Yeah, but if we are going to just not act against those kind of people, it means we are tolerating that. You see, so as much as we want to criticize, we need also to play this game, because I think we are not playing a fair game when it comes to being perfect, because it's like we are actually pursuing this status quo thing of saying they must be perfect towards us.
All right, Godfrey in Kempton Park. Let's leave it there. I don't know if you would agree with Godfrey. Are there different standards of living, or different expectations for white people and black people? I don't think the standards are high at all. Just treat me like a human being. That's not even a standard. It's just decency. Full stop. It's not a ridiculous expectation. Shawnee in Tshwane, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Well, thank you.
I'm fine, man. Now, South Africa, we...
Oh, Shawnee, is your radio on? Please sort that out and switch it off for me. I'll come back to you in just a moment. Sakile, hi.
Good morning, my sister. How are you?
All right, thank you, Sakile.
Good day. I just think that what Helen Zille said is she speaks what is in her heart. And it actually reveals what's in her heart. What she basically says is that we as black people, we need to kneel to the white people and worship them and thank them for having colonized us, as if they've made a huge favor for us, and that we should overlook all that they have done and say thank you for colonizing us. We are better people today because you have colonized us. In response to that, I'd like to say, Helen Zille, there are only 4.6 million white people in this country. If you think we are going to worship you because you came and colonized us against our will, you can go and grab the dromedaries and the Goede and go back to Europe and leave us alone, and we will sort ourselves out. We don't need you if you think you're going to come to us with that attitude.
Mm-hmm.
They can pack their bags and go if they think we are going to worship them and say, you are God's greatest gift to mankind because you came and colonized us. We didn't ask you to come and colonize us. And if you think you've done us a favor and that we should overlook all the things that you've done to us, guess what? Helen Zille, together with all your people, we don't need you. You can go back to Holland or to wherever you come from. We'll manage on our own.
Sakile in Pretoria, thank you very much for your call. Shawnee, I have you back. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks.
Yes. Here in South Africa now, our party, ANC, they were supposed to have good things for us as a South African. And Helen Zille, she's taking chance because she knows that black people, when they do their things, they can't do their things alone. And for us as a South African, we win this country. We won this country, and instead to sort our problem for us South African with white people to attack them, the African, they are here and they are disturbing us instead to develop or to fight with white people for what they are doing us. We are attacking each other because if you are my brother, you come here to disturb or to kill my son. Then white people, they can check, or black people really, they don't have a in front. They don't know what they must do because they are stupid. They don't know how to develop their country. Instead for us as a South African to attack white people and do the best at the parliament, the way they are doing, you can't like it. I mean, I saw it yesterday. You can't like it. If it's a white people standing right in front of the people talking something, you can't hear anything like the crash. Even though you do a mistake, they must just first listen and then they're going to answer. White people, they already take note for us already. We don't have power by ourselves. They're the one who started to develop this country, South African. That is why others from Africa, they came here. And when they came here, instead to boost us to do the best thing, or now they are doing their own corruption and whatever. So white people, they are laughing at us. You understand?
Yeah.
So ANC, they were supposed to do. They were supposed to accelerate and control us and show us the way, so that even though you white people, we can say, just take your bags and go. Tomorrow we can have our own background, the best one.
Yeah. All right, Shoni.
Yeah,
you can finish your point quickly, please.
Yes, I'm going to finish now. You can find that even in court, a black person, instead to trust a black person, he can't do it because he knows that black person, if I have case and white person, I have this with white person, they can go and do jojo to that black person. And black person, because it's not broad and wise, you're going to take money. And me as the one who has got a case, I'm going to feel pain and see that here there's something wrong. Already white people, they know us more than the way we are doing. So can ANC do the best?
Right.
Can they do the best so that these African people, because they don't have white people that side, that is where they are poor. For us, we are already developed a lot of things. And to us, we must do the best, even though they are here, to show them that even though you do it, we can do it.
Yeah. Shoni in Swane, let's just leave it there, ma'am. Thanks for your call. Angie in Pretoria, hi.
Hi, ma'am. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Thanks. I just would like to respond first to the guy, I think he was your guest, talking about us black people being disappointed in the ANC. Mm-hmm. He is partly right, but I think we should not be, as black people, be channeled to think that the ANC owned the revolution. The reason why the popularity of the ANC came as a result of the international community supporting the ANC, even in exile. The international community was not interested in nationalists like the PAC, who spoke of the land. Mm-hmm. The popularity of the ANC came because they liked what the ANC was all about, which is what is in the Constitution today, that the South Africa belongs to all who live in it. So we shouldn't be channeled as South African people that the ANC is our only savior. We are beginning to wake up and say, what did 1994 and CODESA do for us? And number two, it is the very ANC that has protected white monopoly capital.
Absolutely.
The issue of the banks, was reported 16 years ago in democracy, and it was ignored by this very same ANC government. So today they are just singing the rhetoric because they are seeing that the EFF is building a capital, political capital, on what black people are saying, bring back our land, because that is what our forefathers lost. It is the land. So it is not the ANC that will save us, but it is our own black people that should come together and let us demand what belongs to us.
I can't add anything more to that, and you've fantastic call. Thank you very much. Agent in Mums, hi.
Yes, hi. So, as much as it's difficult for us to agree with Helen Zille, the subjective or the objective evidence is that the concept of churches, this thing, it's illegal colonization. And then we are busy now making it to flourish. So I think it is high time to face the hard truth. Look at the expansion of these churches. We had our own ways of praising God, but they brought the concept of churches. and we are sorry.
Oh, agent, what happened there? Opanyana in Mabuluka. Hi.
My leader, how are you there?
Well, thank you, Opanyana.
I'm good. My leader, I would like to put my contribution there, please. Yeah, so also I think it's time for blacks now to just try to vote for another party now. Because Helen Zille shows us that even if the DA won the national elections, it's going to be tough for blacks, okay? Because I think they're just using my money, they think. Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. Oh, Opanyana, uko guy, hunali music mo. Uko guy.
Yeah, I'm in the taxi and I'm going to work now.
Oh, okay. Uba jwetsa gore ba mamele Power FM mo taxi.
No. I'll do that.
Thanks for the call. Opanyana is in a cab there. Opanyana on the line there. On his way to wherever. I thought he's coming out of the club, hearing some music at 5:30 in the morning. I feel bad for having a go at Musi, having a go about his many accents. I think the brother's under pressure. At the end of the day, he's still a brother with probably not much power to discipline the likes of DKB or the very problematic Helen Zille. But we can't be blinded though, eh? We can't be blinded by any of it. Mpozitole is not blinded and has your latest Power headlines, because if she was, it would be very awkward. You'd wonder, what on earth is she going to tell you? Here's your headlines in the traffic.
Power 98.7 Podcasts.